You know, the kingdom has no Instagram, no rappers, and no LVMH. It raises an obvious question. Do North Koreans have fashion at all? Comrade, I know you have a lot of questions. Has the existence of fashion police successfully eliminated underground Gucci knockoffs? How do people really feel about the leader's iconic, some might say iconoclastic, hairstyle? And in a country where individuality is illegal but appearances are mandatory, who exactly are you dressing for? Walk the streets of Pyongyang and you may encounter whistle-toting women in uniform, measuring skirt lengths with revolutionary precision. Just a few steps away, citizens proudly wear bright neon shirts, not as a statement of personal taste, but as a patriotic duty. This is the utter inverse of K-pop aesthetics from that fake Korea down south. No idols, no styling freedom, just state-approved optimism in polyester. Officially, the supreme leader Kim Jong-un is the one and only fashion model. North Korean fashion is a paradox, a catwalk of conformity and rebellion, where each leader led a fashion revolution, but you must dress ideologically correct. Today, we'll dive into this bizarre sartorial land, fashion without pop stars and influencers, to see how style survives, mutates, and occasionally thrives under a dictatorship. Here, closets are guarded by the state, the bright-colored revolutionaries struck beneath Kim Il-sung's gaze, and a runway exists without any audience. Button your shirts, lower your pant legs, let's dig in.
This is Park Kum-sun, chief of the Mire Scientist Street Korean costume tailor shop. Just in her 30s, she has unusual attainments in Korean clothes. She has been making Korean clothes for 12 years since she took part in a national Korean clothes exhibition in her university days.
Before everything, we must define our topic. What exactly is fashion? And how did it become such an important topic? In the capitalist world, fashion is more than clothes. It's a weaponized industry of desire. Every season, fast fashion chains and luxury brands alike bombard consumers with new styles and trends, creating a cycle of perpetual want. Designers and marketers turn shirts and shoes into status symbols, selling not just garments but identities. A Gucci bag isn't just a bag, it's an $800 logo emblazoned badge of honor. Jeans aren't just pants, they're cultural shorthand for rebellion or coolness. Under capitalism, fashion thrives on planned obsolescence and branding. Our wardrobes become expressions of individuality, but also commodities that we tirelessly consume. In short, capitalism took the basic human desire to adorn oneself and supercharged it for profit, turning fashion into both an art form and a ruthless business. Now, contrast the capitalist decadence with our socialist ideal. In theory, revolutionary societies wanted to eliminate class distinctions, and it of course includes those shown through clothes. Fashion, with its flamboyant self-expression and luxury labels, was often seen as a capitalist excess or bourgeois frivolity. Socialist regimes aspired to clothe everyone simply and equally. Think of Mao-era China's blue tunics or the Soviet uniform coats. The message was that everyone is a comrade, no one is a fashion diva. Clothing was functional and unadorned, meant to de-emphasize individuality in favor of collective identity. Totalitarian regimes demand uniformity in every possible way. One means of control is appearance. In North Korea, from the 1950s on, authorities indeed tried to impose a single sartorial mold on the people, requiring conservative hairstyles and outfits, banning any capitalist chic. The Kim regime wanted citizens to look the same, so no one could express individual identity. This was fashion used as social engineering and put dress as a discipline. But here's the irony. Even socialist states couldn't completely suppress the language of clothes. The government eventually discovered that fashion could be politically useful. In the late 1980s, for example, officials abruptly encouraged people to wear bright colors instead of dull tones, because colorful dress was deemed a sign of socialist modernization and prosperity. The state literally banned drab black or khaki outfits for women and pushed colorful dresses to impress foreign visitors and show that the regime was providing a good life. And thus, in various DPRK official documentaries, we see women celebrating in waves, all dressed in colored Korean traditional hanbok dresses. It was a stark reversal of North Korea's early approach to fashion. The very regime that once turned Korea into a land of muted Mao-style jackets now trumpeted new, vivid styles as proof of progress. So, here is the question. What happens when the state, or say the leader's taste, replaces the entire fashion industry? In North Korea, the answer is a strange hybrid of control and creativity. The government plans styles like an industrial 5-year plan, propaganda departments declare which colors are revolutionary, and clothing can be as much a propaganda tool as a poster. Yet, beneath that, the human love of style still bubbles up, often in unintended ways. Let's take a look at the official DPRK style book and see what's inside.
Kim Jong-il concerned himself with people's clothes. Assessing the forms and colors of clothes, he inquires into whether they are made to suit the people's ages and occupations. It says that clothes should be made to meet the demands and tastes of people of every stripe, so that they would be envious of nobody in the world.
In normal countries, trends are set by designers, celebrities, magazines, and now Instagram and influencers. In North Korea, the only trendsetter is the state. Fashion here comes with an instruction manual, quite literally. The government publishes official clothing pattern books with approved designs for men's and women's outfits. New editions come out each year and are widely read by clothing makers and enthusiasts. Imagine Vogue, but written by the Central Committee with mandatory conformity. These style books feature everything from work uniforms to casual wear, all vetted to ensure they align with socialist values. Television programs demonstrate how to dress properly. For instance, there are experts from the Light Industry Research Institute lecturing on how to mix and match colors and patterns for a lively, civilized look. On screen, they earnestly explain color theory. For instance, pairing a sky blue bodice with slightly lighter sleeves, or contrasting a pink fabric with crisp white to make it more refreshing. The tone feels like a surreal, state-sanctioned project runway, with cadres as fashionistas. The Clothing Research Institute in Pyongyang essentially acts as the nation's fashion house. It creates new clothing designs and even holds exhibitions to promote them. Ever since the late Kim Il-sung era, North Korea has organized fashion shows of a sort. In 1989, when Pyongyang hosted a major youth festival, authorities opened an exhibition center displaying clothes, shoes, and style guides for dressmakers. They produced style book pamphlets and campaigns pushing desirable hairstyles and attire to impress the foreign guests. Surprisingly, one South Korean participant at that festival, who wore jeans and a t-shirt, inadvertently started a craze. Young Northerners copied her Lim Soo-kyung style bob haircut and denim look for a while, much to the dismay of officials who had painted South Korea as a starving, poorly dressed puppet of the West. This anecdote is telling. Even as the state carefully plans fashion, real trends often slip in through cracks, whether via a visiting student or, later, via smuggled DVDs. Officially, the DPRK drip emphasizes bright and diverse clothing. North Korean media now criticize the old habit of wearing dull, dark clothes as a leftover from the 1990s famine years. As one state TV broadcast admitted, during the arduous March years, many people started dressing in as dark colors as possible to appear modest and austere. Wow, how dare they say that, since the trend was literally set by the dear leader. But it is now declared a backwards mindset. We thought wearing dark made us seem proper and following the leader, but now we see that was old and behind the times. In our fashionably new North Korea, clothing should be colorful to brighten our lifestyle and delight the people around us. Bright hues are equated with revolutionary optimism. A cheerful populace in lively outfits reflects the ever-developing civilization of our era. A state designer argued that when a young worker walks into a workplace wearing dark clothes, no one notices them, and it creates no joy. But if they enter in a bright outfit, they appear full of fervor and life, and everyone feels the department will do well. This almost comical bit of color psychology has been elevated to national ethos. North Korean publications even link this to the nation's heritage, reminding people that Koreans are the white-clad people who love cleanliness and bright dress. Hence, embracing vivid and elegant attire is actually traditional. Through workplaces, women's union meetings, media, and rallies, top-down fashion advice gradually reached the public. Factories hold sessions on proper attire. State TV airs segments where actresses model the latest party-approved styles. One defector noted that female teachers in North Korea were required to wear only a few very conservative styles. The exact cut of skirt and jacket was mandated, and anything above the knee or remotely trendy was forbidden. Such rigidity has slightly eased under the leadership of Kim Jong-un, but only within a controlled framework. The regime still broadcasts clear sartorial red lines. Essentially, the government replaced the fashion industry with socialist ideals. Bureaucrats are the designers, propaganda officers are the fashion bloggers. The result is a peculiar mix of socialist puritanism and propaganda pageantry. In a land with no personal freedom, even choosing an outfit is political. And that becomes stark when we examine what ordinary North Koreans actually wear day to day, outside Pyongyang's planned fashion showcases.
우리 밀니로부터 색이 진한 것보다 연하고 부드러우며 선명한 것을 좋아하였습니다. 전치마 저고리는 웃옷과 아래 옷으로 구성되어 있어 색조를 따로 할 수 있는 그런 우점을 가지고 있습니다.
All fashion theories aside, what do North Koreans actually put on each morning? For the average citizen, fashion is constrained by two harsh factors: scarcity and restrictions. Especially outside the showcase capital of Pyongyang, clothing options depend on what one can obtain from state rations or the black market. Older North Koreans recall that before the 90s, you couldn't just go shopping for the latest style. Clothes were distributed by the state through a coupon system. Each person was allotted a very limited amount. For example, students got one set of school uniforms and one pair of shoes per year by ticket. Adults, a similar ration. Everything was given by the state, and everyone ended up dressed more or less the same. Ordinary folks wore mostly black, dark blue, maybe some mustard yellow, because fabric choices were limited and bright dyes scarce. It was difficult to find any foreign-made clothing at all due to North Korea's geopolitical isolation and self-reliance policy. Even underwear was an issue. There were no mass-produced undergarments and shops, so many people cut old, worn-out clothes into makeshift underwear, or they'd go to a state tailor to commission simple underclothes. Aside from high-ranking cadre families, almost everyone dressed humbly and similarly. Then came the economic collapse of the mid-90s, when the state's public distribution system for food and goods broke down completely. With state-owned garment factories idle and ration coupons now useless, North Koreans had to fend for themselves to get something to dress up their bodies. This gave rise to the black markets as lifelines. People started trading anything they could, like second-hand clothing from China, home-sewn garments made from smuggled textiles. Families who could afford a bit of fabric would hire local tailors to make basic trousers or shirts. So private dressmakers and seamstresses became so crucial in the socialist black market, and some even made a fortune. The fashion playing field changed. Money, not ration coupons, decided who wore what. Wealthier folks could seek out better fabrics smuggled from China and even have some modest embellishments, while the poor could only patch up old garments. For children and students, clothing depends on age and resources. Kindergartners don't have uniforms. Little guys wear whatever their parents can scrounge up. In poorer areas, toddlers run around in hand-me-downs that have been patched over and over. Those better off might dress their kids in bright cartoon print outfits imported from China. By primary school, unfortunately, uniforms kick in. North Korean elementary students are supplied a standard uniform, usually a dark navy blue suit-style outfit with a white shirt and red scarf for young pioneers. The quality is infamously poor, thin fabric that doesn't keep out the cold. Families often buy the uniform in slight larger size so the child can grow into it over a few years. Kids tend to wear that uniform every day without frequent washing, so by year's end, the fabric can get shiny with grime. Only for special occasions like laying flowers at Kim Il-sung's statue are students admonished to show up with a freshly cleaned, immaculate uniform. Middle and high school uniforms used to differ in design back in the 70s, but at some point they were made identical to the primary uniforms. Yet, even within these strict bounds, teenagers find ways to care about style. Defectors describe how high schoolers would obsess over keeping their white shirt collars bright, or they would swap in a nicer belt, or clean their canvas shoes diligently to look sharp. Some senior boys secretly tailored their pant legs to be slimmer or ironed a crease just so. In that conformity, tiny expressions of pride in appearance emerged: a freshly shined pair of sneakers or an extra neatly tied red neckerchief. Once in university, the dress code relaxes slightly. College students don't have to wear uniforms every day. Many opt for semi-formal attire. For men, that could mean a plain suit or sport jacket, and for women, a blouse and skirt. Those with money might tailor a suit in the latest available style. There's even a term for a well-to-do student's outfit: a North Korean landing suit, similar to a South Korean-style job interview suit. Dressing up that way certainly signals you're elite, and indeed, you can often tell a student's background by their outlook. Ethnic Chinese students or children of diplomats might sport relatively stylish, colourful outfits bought abroad, while ordinary North Korean students stick out in their conservative, monotone clothing. In fact, overseas Chinese in Pyongyang say they must carry their foreign resident ID at all times, because if they dress too well, like wearing a trendy coat or bright sweater, They'll be stopped by inspectors, assuming they're North Korean, and breaking dress rules. It's a strange situation where looking too fashionable can get a young person in trouble, unless you can prove you're not subject to the same rules. For most adults in daily life, clothing is utilitarian, not fashion. Common laborers, men and women, will wear cheap work clothes, often simple jackets and pants made of coarse fabric, typically in muted earth tones. Many men in the countryside actually wear parts of old military uniforms, minus insignia, since military surplus or knockoffs are widely sold and prized for durability. Footwear in villages and small towns is almost universally the low-cost blue canvas shoes known as 운동화 or sports shoes, which are actually flimsy sneakers mass-produced domestically. They have rubber soles, typically in navy blue or black, and cost only a little. North Korean women also often wear a variant, blue canvas flats without laces, commonly called Pyongyang or convenience shoes, prized because they're easy to slip on and extremely cheap. In bad weather, people switch to high-top galoshes or boots. A classic sight in winter is men and women both wearing black rubber combat boots, not as a fashion statement, but because those are practical for slogging through mud and snow. These boots have a circle of rubber sealing the lower foot and a canvas or leather upper. Combine that with thick headscarves wrapped around faces to block the freezing wind, and many North Koreans in winter look like they stepped out of a 50s time warp. Despite the general lack of choices, North Koreans care immensely about their outlooks. It's often noted that Koreans, both North and South, are exceptionally appearance conscious. This almost obsessive grooming culture persists despite poverty. People may skip meals, but they will save up for nice clothes if they can. They might eat worse or use old things, but they must dress well. If a certain style or item becomes trendy, everyone clamors to get it, even if it means trading precious food rations or borrowing money. An example, when smartphones became a status symbol, young folks would go into debt or sell assets just to buy a phone, not for the calls, but to look cool in public. Clothing is similar. A fashionable coat or pair of shoes can elevate one's social standing, so it's seen as worth the sacrifice. The rise of the black markets opened a floodgate of second-hand clothing into North Korea, which continues today. Technically, the import of used clothing is banned, both for sanitation and socialist purity, but the profits are too high to resist. Traders compress bales of used apparel abroad, bribe their way through customs, and sell them in local markets. They even repackage second-hand clothes as new by folding and bagging them nicely. The margins are enormous. A garment acquired for pennies might sell for several dollars. As a result, many North Koreans today wear imported clothes that are actually hand-me-downs from other countries. It's not uncommon to see a rural woman proudly wearing a t-shirt with some English or Chinese writing on it, simply because that shirt came through the black market. Of course, some rules are clearly understood by all. Certain things you just cannot wear. Obvious no-nos include South Korean or American brands, blue jeans, or clothing with large foreign lettering or flags. These are explicitly or implicitly banned as the hostile culture. Wearing denim jeans has been regarded as treasonously pro-American for decades. Also, revealing or sexy attire is essentially forbidden for women in public. So while most North Koreans might dream of dressing up, they stay within the bounds of what won't get them in trouble. The result is that most people, most of the time, dress very plainly. But that makes the exceptions all the more interesting. When someone steps out in a slightly trendier jacket or a pair of flashy shoes, everyone notices. Fashion in North Korea thus becomes a game of subtle signals and sometimes secret indulgence. In a way, that pent-up desire for self-expression makes fashion more significant. And nothing illustrates the tension between individual style and state control better than North Korea's notorious fashion police.
I am in North Korea and I'm going to get a haircut. Let's see what it's like. Retro hairdresser. These are the different haircuts we can get. So there's not much variation, but I'm going to ask for something special.
Yes, fashion police are real in North Korea. And they don't mean snarky bloggers, but actual squads of inspectors patrolling the streets for dress code violations. In Pyongyang and provincial towns alike, the people most likely to stop you for an improper hemline are members of the Socialist Patriotic Youth League, Women's Union cadres, or neighborhood in Minban supervisors. These are not law enforcement officers in the traditional sense. They're local zealots armed with whistles, clipboards, and decades of cultural indoctrination. They blend in just enough that a tourist might not realize what they are, but any local knows. Their mission? To spot any clothing, hairstyle, or accessory that strays from the regime's standards and correct it on the spot. If you're a North Korean woman walking home in a skirt above the approved knee length, you may suddenly hear a sharp tweet of a whistle. If you're a man with hair over the collar, or, Kim forbid, dyed brown, expect to be stopped and questioned. The rulebook is comprehensive. Miniskirts are strictly banned, considered highly improper and Western. Until fairly recently, women weren't even allowed to wear pants at all. That has relaxed a bit, but woe unto the woman who dares to roll up her trouser cuffs above mid-calf. That's absolutely unthinkable, according to these enforcers. And one of the gravest sins is hair dye. Except for covering natural greying, every citizen's hair must remain patriotic black by order of the state. Fashion police have been known to drag young men to a barbershop on the spot to buzz off long hair or force women to wash out illicit dye. So, what happens if you're caught by the fashion police? The consequences range from a stern public lecture to real punishment. Sometimes the penalty is immediate public shaming. They might surround the offender and loudly critique their capitalist attire to embarrass them in front of everyone. In worse cases, violators are taken to the local administrative unit or police station. There, one might be fined a small amount of money or forced to write self-criticism statements. Repeat or serious offenders can even face short detention or hard labor. Just imagine spending a week in a work farm because your haircut was too trendy. Sounds funny, doesn't it? The regime takes this so seriously that the Youth League has an official mandate to act as the nation's extended fashion police. In 2021, the Youth League even issued lists of approved and forbidden styles to clamp down on non-socialist behavior. They famously limited the country to only 15 acceptable hairstyles. Anything outside that list was grounds for reprimand. Mullets, spiked hair, or anything punky, banned. Skinny jeans or ripped denim, banned. Nose or lip piercings, banned. Kim Jong-un himself has railed against these capitalistic fashion trends, urging vigilance against their spread. The crackdown isn't just theoretical. There have been some over-the-top enforcement incidents that sound straight out of satire. The rationale for all this repression is the regime's fear of ideological decay. They link fashion to individualism and capitalist thought. Flamboyant or Western clothing is seen as the first step toward disobedience. In the Kimdom, wearing something as simple as jeans or a bit of makeup can be a silent act of rebellion. And indeed, many youths know this. The state media often rant about these exhibitions of exotic and clear decadent styles, urging young people to dress and groom in our own way. Yet, the more the regime bans something, the more desirable it becomes. One defector quipped, "The quickest way to make a trend take off in North Korea is for the authorities to outlaw it." One example is women's skirts. Short skirts were denounced as capitalist, but that only led women to push the limits, wearing skirts just a hair shorter than allowed, or secretly sewing in slits and then covering them unless out of inspectors' sight. Tight-fitting trousers on women were frowned upon, so guess what? Young women started tailoring their pants tighter to accentuate their figures. They would still technically wear pants, but seek stretchy fabric or altered cuts to make them form-fitting. This cat-and-mouse game results in a strangely charged atmosphere around clothes. A young man daring to wear a brightly coloured shirt or trendy sneakers knows he will be stopped and lectured, but he might do it anyway to feel a bit of personal freedom. Observers say there's an underground desire that grows in response to each repression. When authorities in 2021 doubled down on banning Western styles, instead of snuffing them out, they arguably made them cooler. The fashion police themselves have become more active and visible whenever the regime feels threatened. After some years of relative laxness, teams of women in uniforms reappeared on city corners, whistles in hand, a sign that any nascent cultural liberalization was being reined back in. As our dear scholar Andrei Lankov noted, it's a campaign against anti-socialist activities, and it shows the leadership's anxiety about losing control. The very presence of fashion police is a stark reminder. In North Korea, personal style is not personal at all, it's political. Yet, up in Pyongyang's elite circles, there exists another world entirely, one where fashion flourishes in surprising ways, often shielded by privilege. Here, vanity coexists with ideology in fascinating contradictions.
Here in this picture, where she's next to her father and she has a little velvet bow on her jacket. Very traditional, something we've seen in the United States through the generations of political families and what kids wear in terms of outerwear. And again, that velvet bow communicates a youthfulness. And then we see her where she appears to have on designer glasses, a leather jacket, a fur collar, it's belted, it exudes a lot of power.
In the showcase capital of Pyongyang, and among the upper echelon of North Korean society, fashion takes on a different hue. The change started at the very top. Ri Sol-ju, Kimdom's first lady, brought a breath of fresh style when she began appearing publicly a decade ago. Young, poised, and notably fashionable, Ri Sol-ju has been called the Kate Middleton of North Korea for her trend-setting influence. Unlike previous leaders' wives who stayed out of sight, Ri became a fixture at Kim Jong-un's side, wearing smart tailored suits, dresses with bold patterns, high heels, and carrying designer handbags. North Koreans took notice. By 2013, Ri had become a style setter for young women in Pyongyang. When she first appeared on TV as Kim's wife in 2012, she wore an elegant green blouse. Within months, that Ri Sol-ju style blouse had been copied and was being sold in Pyongyang's markets. She was also seen with sparkling brooches and form-fitting Western dresses, a shocking contrast in a country where just years earlier women stuck to boxy conservative cuts. One of the biggest splashes she made was carrying a plush Christian Dior handbag, a genuine luxury item with an estimated price of around $1,500. That sight astonished North Korea watchers and also electrified Pyongyang's women. Suddenly, having a luxury brand accessory wasn't just a fever dream. The First Lady herself modeled it. Since then, her figure-hugging dresses, peplum jackets, and even her choice of killer high heels have all become aspirational for North Korean women. Pyongyang's wealthy and well-connected wasted no time. An industry of knockoff designer clothing sprang up to cater to their fashion appetites. Tailors in places like the Gangsun district of Nampo began producing sophisticated imitations of luxury brands. They would get samples of foreign designer clothes, often smuggled from China or Japan, take them apart and create patterns to replicate them en masse. Local markets are flooded with counterfeit luxury, complete with fake Burberry or Chanel labels sewn in. The quality of some fakes is so high that even Chinese traders were impressed by North Korean tailors' skills. These knockoffs aren't cheap for locals. A copied Chanel-style blouse like the one Ri Sol-ju wore might sell for $40, a considerable fortune for the average citizen, but a price elites will gladly pay. Trendy items catch on quickly at elite universities. For example, a certain style of long coat, essentially a fake Burberry, became the must-have winter wear for students at Kim Il-sung University, selling for about $300 each in the markets. That is an astronomical sum in North Korea, like months of a professor's salary, indicating that those buying it had outside sources of income or came from powerful families. Status fashion had finally arrived. It's not only Ri Sol-ju influencing fashion from above. North Koreans, especially urban youth, have been secretly watching South Korean TV dramas on smuggled USB drives and copying the actors' outfits. Lacking Cosmopolitan or Pinterest, tailors literally use K-drama DVDs as their fashion magazines. They pause scenes and study the dresses that a glamorous Seoul actress is wearing, then recreate those designs for customers. One merchant described seeing a pair of shoes in a Pyongyang department store, priced at a staggering $120, simply because they were advertised as a copy of something a famous South Korean actress wore on TV. The hunger for the South Korean style is that intense. Even though being caught with South Korean media is punishable, people risk it for the allure of looking like their K-drama idols. In recent years, this trend has only grown. The upper crust in Pyongyang holds secret fashion shows among themselves to show off new apparel they've acquired. While a farmer may struggle to afford second-hand pants, a Pyongyang nouveau riche lady is paying triple the European retail price for a Gucci bag smuggled through China. Ever since Ri Sol-ju was seen with that Dior, big city women have been gripped by near frenzy for luxury goods. A black market merchant can sell a genuine Chanel perfume or Louis Vuitton purse in Pyongyang for 2 to 3 times the official price, and still find eager buyers. In the past couple of years, the leader's young daughter, Kim Ju-ae, has made public appearances, and her outfits immediately set trends. In May 2023, the 10-year-old Ju-ae appeared at a military parade in a stylish black leather coat in a matching mini-me look with her father. An average person wearing aviator sunglasses in North Korea might be accused of bourgeois affectation. But here was the supreme leader's daughter, rocking shades like a badass from action films. A few months later, state media ran photos of Ju-ae at a different event, wearing a Dior coat worth around $2,000, and at another time, a chic navy blouse with fashionable see-through lace sleeves. That see-through sleeves look was utterly unprecedented in North Korea. Sheer fabrics are basically considered risqué. Yet soon after Ju-ae wore it, reports emerged that Pyongyang's wealthy children were adopting the see-through sleeve trend. It's suspected this is not a coincidence, but by design. Experts suggest the regime is deliberately making Ju-ae into a fashion icon to set approved trends among youth. Essentially, If the leadership can't stop fashion influence, they want to channel it. So they let Juair wear a relatively tame version of a global trend, and then propagate that as if it's the hot new thing, endorsed by the Kim family. The calculation might be, better they copy Kim's daughter than copy a K-pop star. Indeed, normal parents in North Korea would never let their child be the first to wear something bold. So likely, some elite kids are hand-picked to sport Juair's styles as a signal for others. Again, it's fashion leadership by diktat, the regime trying to manufacture a trend from above. Whether this works naturally or not, it shows the bizarre extremes of North Korean elite fashion, where even a pre-teen's outfit is part of a propaganda strategy. The Moranbong Band, North Korea's all-female pop music ensemble, also set an example a few years back by performing in short skirts and high heels, with styled hair and even off-shoulder tops. That was state-sanctioned glamour, meant to project modernity, and it influenced urban women to be a bit more daring within allowed limits. A defector noted cynically that some older conservatives grumbled those styles were against socialism, but young women retorted, even Marshall Kim's favorite band dresses like that. In short, Pyongyang's elite live a double life, publicly chanting revolutionary slogans in modest uniforms by day, but at private clubs or secret shopping showrooms, indulging in Chanel perfumes, high-end local Italian knockoffs, and binge-watching K-drama fashion tutorials at night. This elite fashion scene is rife with contradiction. The regime's ideology preaches equality and frugality, yet here are party officials' wives trying to one-up each other with European handbags. The state bans Western styles for the masses, yet imports Western luxury for the ruling class. Kim Jong-un in 2019 actually banned leather trench coats for ordinary people after they became trendy, because that was his signature look. The fashion police will take a pair of jeans off a street vendor, but Kim Jong-un's own sister, Kim Yo-jong, has been photographed carrying what looks like a Dior or Prada clutch. Criticizing it openly is dangerous, so they channel their aspirations instead. If the leaders can enjoy fashion, that means fashion itself isn't evil. It's just a matter of time until we can too. In a darkly comic way, the Kims dabbling in couture has opened a mental door for the populace. It's legitimate to care about looking good. As one teenager from Pyongyang said to a clandestine interviewer, "I want to dress like the people I see on smuggled videos. Why should only the big cadres get to look nice?" The regime knows that attitude is brewing. It walks a fine line, loosening up just enough to keep people content, like letting them wear platform heels or allowing a bit of makeup, but cracking down when it senses things go too far. This push and pull will likely continue, because clothing is one of the few semi-free spaces where North Koreans can taste a bit of personal choice. North Korea's fashion world is at once comical and poignant, a microcosm of life under dictatorship, with all its absurdity and yearning. In this tightly controlled society, fashion has become both a form of rebellion and conformity. A young woman who clandestinely wears a sparkly hairpin or a fitted skirt is quietly thumbing her nose at authority, asserting a bit of self in a place that demands self-negation. Yet, the very same act might also be an attempt to conform to a global sense of normalcy, to feel like she's part of the wider world of trends and beauty. not just a uniform number in socialist drab. Clothes here carry immense symbolic weight. You know, wearing jeans equals freedom for many North Koreans. It's something we might take for granted elsewhere, but in the DPRK, a simple garment can signify dissent. Conversely, donning the approved pins and suits signifies loyalty. It's a daily dance. Citizens constantly negotiate how much to blend in or stand out. Ultimately, North Korean fashion underscores the human need for self-expression, finding cracks in even the hardest cement of tyranny. It's telling that despite decades of imposed uniformity, a distinct fashion culture has emerged in the DPRK, one that mixes homegrown socialist styles with clandestine imports and ingenious knockoffs. Fashion here lives in a paradox: identity without freedom. People craft an identity through dress, yet that identity is always constrained by what the regime permits. It's like walking a runway where the audience is a panel of stern party judges. By the end of our journey, we saw that fashion in North Korea is far from non-existent. It's just uniquely shaped by isolation and control. From the state-sanctioned style book preaching bright colours, to the black market boutiques selling knockoff Gucci, from the fashion police blowing whistles at miniskirts, to the Pyongyang fashionistas secretly swapping style tips from K-dramas, the landscape is rich with ironic juxtapositions. Picture one last scene. A group of Pyongyang college girls giggling in a dormitory, trying on homemade dresses late at night, inspired by a forbidden South Korean drama they watched on a smuggled USB. For a moment, they are like any girls anywhere, twirling in front of a mirror, imagining they're on a catwalk in Seoul or Paris. Come morning, they'll don their drab uniforms and dutifully pin on Kim Il-sung badges over their hearts. But in their minds, they carry a spark, a sense of style that is theirs. North Korea may dictate its words and actions, but the spark of fashion is one realm where they carve out a piece of itself. That's the dark humour and the hope in this weird world of DPRK fashion. Even under a regime intent on cloning its citizens, people still find ways to adorn life with a bit of beauty and individuality.